Hi everyone, I'm Demetria, and I help entrepreneurs, creators, and thought leaders use podcasting to share their message, grow their audience, and build something that actually matters. And I do this through coaching and editing at soulpodcasting.com. But before any of that, I want to tell you about the worst 30 seconds of my podcasting life. I had prepped for about an hour. Notes were ready, coffee in hand, microphone positioned just right. And I hit record and I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Not nothing good or not nothing smart, just nothing. My mind was a blank wall. And I sat there staring at a blinking cursor and wondering if I'd suddenly forgotten how to speak English. And I remember thinking, I've talked to people my entire life and I've never once forgotten how to have a conversation. So why the second the microphone turns on, does my brain act like I've never spoken a sentence before? So I sat with that question for a really long time, and it turns out that the answer isn't about talent or preparation or even your confidence, but it's about something even simpler and much more fixable than any of us realize when we're in that frozen moment. And if that's ever happened to you behind a microphone or in a meeting or on a stage or anywhere where you have to do some public speaking of some type, I just want you to know something before we go any further, that you are not failing and you're experiencing something almost every single person, including myself, has ever tried to share their voice publicly has experienced. So today I want to show you exactly why this happens and 3 strategies that will change the way you show up behind a microphone forever. And we're going to start with the why, because understanding kind of the mechanism behind why this occurs is what will take the fear out of it. If we can just face this head on, we'll know why we feel the way we do. And so the thing almost nobody will tell you is that when your mind goes blank, it's not because you don't know your topic or what you want to say. It's because the moment you hit record, your brain quietly flips a switch and you go from just having a conversation to performing. That's the difference. And that's what makes it feel so weird, right? Because performance mode will bring a flood of new thoughts that are not going to help you in the moment. You're going to think things like, I need to sound smart, or what if I mess up? People are actually going to hear this and I need to say this perfectly the first time with no mistakes. Those are the things that you might be thinking when you're feeling like you're giving a performance. And what's happening biologically is that pressure is flooding your working memory with noise. You hear the noise because your brain is overloaded with self-monitoring, right? So you're not short on ideas. You're just having a lot of them at once. Imagine trying to have a relaxed conversation with a friend while a second version of you stands away in the corner, grading every sentence in real time, giving you a check mark for every single time you got something wrong or you stuttered. That's what performance mode will do to you. And the cruel irony of all of this is that the more you care about doing it well, the louder that inner critic gets. The people who freeze up the hardest are almost never the ones who don't care. They're the ones who care the most, the ones who know that their message matters and who don't want to waste their audience's time and who feel the actual weight of getting it just right. That weight is exactly what will jam the signal. So when you freeze, your brain isn't empty, it's just crowded. And that is the distinction that changes everything about how we fix it, because you don't need more preparation. You've got this. You have enough notes. You have the desire. You know what you want to say. You're prepared. You just need to clear the noise so that you can go on your mic with confidence and just start talking. So these are a couple of the strategies, and I'm going to give you 3 of them that I do. And one of them is to stop trying to perform. Very easy. It's the single biggest shift that I ever made in my own recording. And that was I stopped imagining an audience and I started imagining one person. not a whole crowd of people, and not just listeners or some faceless algorithm deciding whether I'm worthy of a download. I don't think about my listeners in that way anymore. In fact, I even have slowed down on my production schedule because I know that I can. I know that it's something that is easy for me now that I've been doing this for a couple of years on this particular podcast. I've run Soul Podcasting since 2022. And so I know my audience who enjoys this content will be here when I get back. So now I only post about once every other week, and I used to post about 3 times a week. So I've really changed that production cycle so that it is much shorter in nature, much longer in between episodes, because I know that the one person I'm trying to reach will come back to download that next episode. I'm not afraid to lose a whole crowd because I allow for a longer gap in between episodes. So I'm thinking about that one person, that client or that friend, someone that I talked to recently who may have emailed me just last week with a question that's been sitting in my inbox, someone that I'm sitting across from at a coffee shop, genuinely curious about what I have to say. And that is how I know what content I want to say and what I want to talk about. I answer their questions specifically on this show, and it makes it easy for me because I'm not performing. I'm just helping them out. I'm helping out a friend. And so I want you to envision that that's what you're doing. You're helping a friend. Just try it out right now. Like, take a moment mentally to picture someone specific. Don't think of it's your audience, but think of just one person, one face, one name. Who is that person? And notice what happens inside when you think of that person. Now, your shoulders are probably dropped a little bit and your pacing slows down, your breathing slows down because you're thinking it's your friend, right? Your voice will stop reaching for something in your episodes and you just start talking. You just start talking. And that's not a coincidence. It's your nervous system recognizing the difference between a threat and a conversation. Performing in front of a crowd registers somewhere deep in your brain as exposure. It's like a TED Talk or something that you have to prepare for. It's like a risk, right? And talking to one person will register more like a connection, especially someone you care about. So think about podcasting in that way. It's real, it's resonant. And that type of podcasting where someone just can't stop listening to what you have to say was never a performance to begin with. It was always a conversation that other people are lucky enough to overhear. And so just take a moment to say that with me in your head. Just say a conversation other people get to overhear. And say that a couple more times. And that's strategy number 1. Before you hit record, pick your one person. And number 2, the second trap, is that I fell into this one pretty hard too when I was first starting out. And it's that I used to write scripts, full sentences, word for word. I thought that was the responsible thing to do, to be prepared and leave nothing up to chance. Of course, that gave me a safety net, but the problem with the script is that the moment you forget one single sentence, the whole structure collapses because a script isn't built to bend or be flexible. You have to recite it exactly and in order or not at all. And when you're standing there mid-sentence, just grasping for the exact phrase that you wrote 3 days ago, that's when the freeze might happen. It's when you get a blank wall. And so here's what changed everything for me. I don't use scripts as much as I use outlines, and I like to call them road signs, not railroad tracks, but road signs, because a railroad track locks you into one path. If you derail, you're stuck. You're off the tracks and that's it. But a road sign just tells you this direction, kind of roughly. You still get to drive. You still get to figure out where you're going. You notice the scenery. You might take a slightly different route and react to what's actually happening in the moment. But all you actually need before you hit record is where you're starting, the 2 or 3 points you actually want to land, and where you're ending up. And that's it. That's the whole outline. So sort of this idea of the beginning, the middle, the end. Right? And because the truth is that your audience already knows, even if you haven't admitted it yourself yet, that nobody wants a perfect script. They already know that they want to hear from you. They want a real human. The stumbles, all of the lengthy tangents that you'll go on, on your solo episode or with your friend if you're doing an interview style. They actually like those moments. And those aren't flaws in your content when you're stumbling around just a bit. That is your actual content. And that's what makes it sound like you and not like a corporate press release. So give yourself permission to know where you're going without knowing exactly how you'll get there. And a small exercise that I give my coaching clients before your next recording, I want you to take an index card or a half a sheet of paper, not a full page, but something like an index card or just half a sheet, and write no more than 5 words per point, not sentences, but fragments, such as, the biggest mistake I ever made and what I tell my younger self, maybe your origin story. And that is a road sign because it points you in a direction that gets out of your way instead of standing in the middle of the road demanding that you recite this exactly as it is, right? So you're going to be amazed at how much more naturally you speak the moment you take the pressure of exact wording off the table. And number 3, I want you to keep on going. And that's the third strategy. It's the most freeing one of all, that you don't have to stop recording every single time you stumble over a word. Keep on going. I just want you to sit with that because most people treat a stumble like an emergency. Your voice cracks, you cough, those kinds of things. You're going to lose the thread. Sometimes you're going to say a word wrong sometimes. You might take a deep breath. You might have to cough. You might burp. Who knows what you might do, right? Some things are definitely going to be edited out, but keep going and just continue. The thing I've learned after producing hundreds, I'll say thousands of episodes is that editing exists for a reason, right? When I record right now, I leave mistakes in the moment. I pause, I take a breath. That's for the editing part because it makes it easy for me to know when to edit certain parts. And then I start the sentence again, sometimes right there mid-recording, no stopping at all, because I know that I can clean it up later. I might even do a little clap like that. And that lets me know that at that point that I clapped, that's the point where I splice the audio to edit. Honestly, half the time I don't even bother cutting some of the things that happen because a small stumble followed by a recovery sounds more human, and human is exactly what people are showing up for. So if I don't get all my pauses edited out, it's fine. If I feel that it's something that would detract from my listener's experience, the pause is too long, or I coughed, or I stumbled over my words a little too much so that it's not recognizable what I'm trying to say, then I'll go back and say it again, repeat it, and make sure that I clean that up. But I try not to overdo it, right? And make a bigger deal out of things than it needs to be. Just go ahead and think about your own favorite podcast episode, the one that you would call your all-time favorite, the one that made you feel something, and think about what that podcast is. And I promise you, somewhere in that recording, there was a pause or a restart, or someone forgot what they were saying mid-sentence. A sentence might have trailed off before the host found their footing again and got back on track. You just never paid attention to it, because it either got cut or it didn't need to be cut because the moment passed and the conversation kept on moving exactly like a real conversation does. So the next time you stumble, just pause for a second, breathe, and keep going. And that single decision to keep going instead of starting over, it's going to save you more recording time and more anxiety and more perfectionism than any other trick I could teach you today. And so we're going to bring this all the way back to that moment I told you about at the beginning. And that's me staring at a blinking cursor on my screen, my mind completely blank. And here's what I know now that I wish I'd known way back then in 2004 when I first started podcasting. That blanking out doesn't mean that you're bad at this. It doesn't mean you're unprepared. It doesn't mean you don't have something valuable to say, but it means you actually care. And that's why you're sitting there in front of your screen hoping for a download so that you know what you want to say to your audience. And caring is a beautiful, powerful place to start. It's not a warning sign that you should quit before you even begin. So the goal was never to eliminate every single awkward moment. Nobody's ever achieved that. Not me, not the biggest podcasters in the world, not a single person I know. The goal is simply to keep talking anyway, because the sentence I want you to leave this room with is that confidence doesn't come before recording. Confidence comes from recording. You don't earn the right to feel ready and then start. You got to start first, imperfectly. And then the readiness catches up to you somewhere around episode, 10, 12, 20, 50, but it only catches up if you keep going. And I think about the version of me that was sitting frozen behind that microphone, staring at that blinking cursor. And I wish I could go back and tell that young woman something, that you're not behind, you're not broken, you're just at the very beginning of a skill that only gets built one recording at a time. And there's no shortcut waiting for her, just the next episode and the one after that, and the slow, quiet accumulation of proof that she could, in fact, keep on talking. And that's true for you too. Whatever number you're on right now, episode 0 or episode 1 or 201, the freeze doesn't mean you're in the wrong place. It just means you're exactly where every single person who's ever found their voice publicly once stood. And so what I'd love for you to do next, my friend, is if something in this talk has landed for you and you've been sitting on an idea for a podcast, a message that you know you're meant to share, but that freeze has kept you stuck, I don't want you to leave here and let it kind of fade into someday. Someday I'll make that podcast. Someday I'll sit down and record. I'm offering a free 15-minute meet and greet call. And it's a quick call. There's no pitch, no pressure. It's just a real conversation that you and I can have about what's actually possible for your voice and your message. And I say 15 minutes, but a lot of times it turns into half an hour. So we have a little time. We can sit and chat. And if you're ready to go further beyond that meet and greet call, I also offer a full one-on-one coaching to help you organize your podcasting ideas, help you to shape up your episodes, and just build real lasting confidence behind the microphone. And you can find both of these at soulpodcasting.com. The full link is right here in the show notes. And just know, my friend, you do not have to figure this all out alone. So the next time you sit down, you hit record, your mind goes blank, just take a deep breath and smile and keep on talking. And just know that your audience is waiting to hear from you week after week, month after month. Keep on going. Don't give up. So thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'll talk with you next time, and happy podcasting.